Welcome to the Cigar Sense podcast, your sweet spot for the premium cigar sensory and cultural world, where cigar enthusiasts come to level up their game. With your host, award-winning cigar connoisseur and expert herself, Franca Comparetto.
Hi, this is Franca, and I'm very happy to be here today with my partner in business and in life, David Wells.
Hi, everyone.
David is vice president and co-founder with me of Cigar Sense and is the technologist here. So we have been getting quite some questions from followers and also members about the technology that Cigar Sense uses. So David, it would be great if you could explain. Let's start from a wide overview of how it works.
Sure, Franca. Thanks for making time for me on your podcast. At its core, we really, in the Cigar Sense system, we have essentially two databases. We have one database that, of course, you know very well, is built as a result of our panelists analyzing cigars. So that's our database of cigar profiles. And it contains lots and lots of attributes, over 100 attributes on each cigar. Those are all derived by our panelists doing blind tests. That data is then consolidated. And so we wind up with this tremendous database with detailed profiles of thousands of cigars, the aromas that they present, the flavors they present, strength, lots of other characteristics. The other database is essentially information about our members, about the consumers who have joined Cigar Sense, and it's their personal preference profiles. And so really the core of the service is to recommend to users which cigars are going to best suit their personal preferences. And that's those two databases really coming together. We find that best intersection. So as a member of Cigar Sense, you can look up any cigar that's in our database and see how well or how poorly it fits your personal preferences. There are a couple of ways that users can tell us what their preferences are. One of our onboarding methods, we call it profile by example, but it's basically an inference engine. If you can tell us a few specific cigars that you know you like, then our engine will infer the characteristics of those cigars, create a composite, and that becomes your preference profile. The other way is really very manual. You can tell us specific aromas or specific flavors that you do or don't like, and we'll take that into account. The other thing that's really important is we don't assume that everyone has the same priorities. So part of the onboarding process, for those of you who've been through it, we ask you how important are these characteristics? So what is the relative importance of flavors and aromas versus the strength versus the type of wrapper for the price point?
The ring gauge. So we have many different preferences that are not strictly the olfactory and gustatory ones.
Exactly. Some of them are just a matter of fact about the cigar. And so some of them might not matter to you. So someone who smokes, any size of cigar from small cigarillos to, huge gordos would probably say gauge doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
I tend to like a fairly narrow range of strengths. I tend to like a fairly narrow range of gauges. So my profile reflects both those preferences and the fact that those characteristics are important to me.
Yeah. Thank you, David. So we have observed actually over time how difficult it is for cigar lovers in general to name what they like and what they don't like. And this is what I find fascinating of Cigar Sense, because here is where you have to respect consumers for what they can provide and not expect from them some impossible answers that you would like to have. So on one hand, our members can select manually each descriptor that they like, they don't like, but we need to help them out.
It's true. I mean, we do see evidence that sometimes consumers are confused a little bit, especially early on with our taxonomy for aromas. So our panelists go through training that you give them to normalize the language so that if we use a term like animal aroma, panelists understand exactly what falls within that category. Our aromas will also, for the members, tells them exactly what falls in that category. But it's possible that a consumer might not understand when they see a term like an animal, all the things
Right.
it consists of, and they might actually, have the wrong impression.
Indeed, there's a natural aversion to the term animal. There's an association that is made to something dirty. And it's very interesting to see that leather is one of the most recurring descriptor. So it's one of the aromas that appears most frequently in a cigar. But sometimes people don't know that. They don't know how to name it. They don't know it's leather. And when you tell them, oh, this is animal, so they don't react very positively. But we do suggest them to make some changes to their personal profile via something that you have developed so well that I really love, and I would love you to explain to our listeners.
Oh, I guess you're talking about the profile advisor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point that's important, I think, for users to understand is that the input that you give us, it's not just something that happens one time when you're onboarding into the service, but it's actually really important that over time you continue to give us feedback on specific cigars, ones you like, ones you don't like, because that's what actually triggers the profile advisor to essentially do a reassessment of your profile against the compendium of all the cigars you've liked. So each time you submit a user tasting note, which is the way that you give us that feedback, the profile advisor will look at all the cigars that you've liked and will again create that sort of composite of the characteristics of those cigars and compare it to your profile. And if there's a substantial deviation between them, it'll tell you, you're as a, for instance, it tells me all the time that, you say you don't like bitter, but in fact, many of the cigars that you like present bitter. What that represents is really a difference in the way the consumer thinks about what they're perceiving versus the panel. And the panel's all been trained and their perceptions are normalized with a specific vocabulary. So the consumer might imagine that they don't like bitter. But then again, in my case, I love to drink a Manhattan, and it's definitely not the same without the bitters in it.
Yeah.
So what Profile Advisor is trying to do is trying to help you make sure that that your profile is dialed in, that it's correct, but also if your preferences actually change over time, if you're with us for a matter of years, it's possible that your taste will be evolving, especially if you join us relatively early in your career as a cigar smoker. And as your tastes evolve, as you give us that ongoing input, then Profile Advisor will help you tweak, if needed, your profile. The objective is always to make sure that we have the best understanding we can have of what you truly like and dislike, so that we can give you the most accurate recommendations of cigars that you like.
Exactly. This matching of cigar profiles by the trained panel with the detailed personal preferences of our members allows us also to do something which is revealing to be very informative. It is indeed combining the preferences and the importance of the preferences of the consumers with this standardized language, which makes it much easier for anybody in the industry to read, because many manufacturers, for instance, have confirmed to me how difficult it is to actually make some sense of all the social media comments, how to actually capture information from focus groups in a way that is really actionable. So this is great. Thank you for leading us where we are today, David. Now, one question that we get very frequently is this artificial intelligence.
I guess everybody is getting more and more exposure to artificial intelligence. The current state of the art of AI, in most cases, is also sometimes referred to as machine learning. And that's actually not the method that we use. So the way machine learning works is essentially you train an algorithm by having it examine an enormous set of data. And that algorithm, as it examines that data, processes it, it looks for statistical correlations between different aspects in the data. And that's not what we're doing. And the reason we don't work that way is because we actually find it less reliable, less accurate than our method. Our method is more of what would be traditionally called an expert system. And the difference is we don't just look at the fact that you like A and B, and 90% of the people who like A and B also like C. Um, that's the basic method that most recommenders use. So if you shop on Amazon or on eBay and they're watching what you're looking at, they're watching what you're buying, they're giving you recommendations. Most people have probably seen there's a pretty high error rate in those recommendations. On almost any e-commerce website, there's that type of recommender system. And the thing that it's missing is it's missing an understanding of causality. Why do you like A and B? And that's exactly what our inference engines do in our profile advisor and in our onboarding. They look at not just a coincidence that you like A and B, but they look at the characteristics of A and the characteristics of B, and they form that composite that they then use to either create your initial profile or to check to see if your profile needs to be adjusted in the case of profile advisor. It's that understanding of the causality. These are the characteristics you like. That's what helps us give such reliable recommendations, because we then take those and go and look for other cigars that have those characteristics. It has nothing to do when we're giving recommendations to you. It has absolutely nothing to do with what other people have done or what other people have liked.
Right.
It's all about what you like at the level of the characteristics and what the panel has assessed in the thousands of cigars in our database. Anyone who's familiar with the music service Pandora, that's absolutely how it works. They create what they call the musical genome, and they try to figure out what are the characteristics you like to suggest other music for you.
It is rather new, I believe, in the cigar industry.
Yes, absolutely.
We've seen companies investing in these. So, David, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to talk about one other thing that comes up pretty often, and hopefully those of you who are members of Cigar Sense know this already. But on the point of data privacy, which is something that's really of growing importance all across the world, there are both regulations. I'm thinking of the GDPR as an example of that. The EU has a lot of regulations about data privacy. So we designed for this from the very beginning, and it's reflected in our user agreement.
Yeah.
We never reveal to any other party the personally identifiable information of our members. So when you register and you give us your email address, you give us your name, that information never goes anywhere else but into our database. We do sometimes share anonymized statistical data. So that means the difference is, we will never tell a cigar manufacturer your email address and which cigars you like. We might tell a cigar manufacturer, cigar distributor, in a given geography, most of our members prefer these kinds of characteristics. That's all anonymized. There's no personally identifiable information. There's no email addresses being shared with anybody ever. So that's a pretty common business model, actually, that a lot of services do. We don't do that because we believe in the importance of data privacy. We believe in also, we talk a lot about our independence. That's very important to us. So just want to make sure everybody understands that your data is absolutely held privately, securely. We've got very good security mechanisms on our system.
Absolutely. It's not only about respecting our palate, it's about respecting our data and our privacy as well.
And above all, respecting our consumers.
Of course. Yes. Gosh, I remember when a manufacturer was asking us to sell our members' email addresses to make some targeted campaigns. Yeah, well, I was very surprised that this can still happen in the industry.
And it definitely does. And honestly, there have been times when our response was kind of met with shock that, what do you mean you don't sell your email addresses? Well, this is a promise we make to our members. We're not going to sell that, so you get hit with a lot of spam.
Yeah. There's another question that I am asked pretty often. So why don't you have an app?
That is an interesting point. It's one that we've examined and then re-examined on multiple occasions. We don't have an app. We have a mobile responsive website, which means that you can use your browser on your phone, and the images you see will reconfigure themselves so that it's usable and looks good on the phone. The primary reason for that is that we haven't actually invested in a native app, either for iOS or for Android. It is really the policies that the companies have around publishing apps that are related to tobacco-free CA. There's just very, very aggressive campaigns, and they have a tremendous effect. It's our understanding that very few, if any, cigar-related apps are being approved by the Apple App Store, and likewise at Google for the Android Google Play Store. And so it's a tremendous investment. It's also technically, it dramatically compounds the amount of technical work we have to do, because right now we have a mobile responsive website. And so you can use it from your iPhone, you can use it from your Android phone, you can use it from your tablet, you can use it from your PC or your Mac. Doesn't matter. It's all the same code base. As soon as we start creating native mobile apps, now we have essentially, potentially 3 times the amount of code we have to write and maintain to deliver the same service to people. So it's a business decision more than anything else. I think we've not been willing to make the investment and hope that the app stores would approve our apps. We're hearing about lots of other people who are trying to get cigar-related apps approved by the App Store, and they're having trouble with that. So we try to stay away from that and really focus on delivering good features that people can use on any device.
Right. Thank you, David. I hope our listeners have been enjoying this episode. And if you guys have any more questions, please send them to me and we'll make a follow-up episode to answer your further questions.
We hope you enjoy using Cigar Sense.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone. Ciao.
Ciao.
You've been listening to the Cigar Sense podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in regularly for more exciting insights and wisdom on the premium cigar sensory and cultural world. And until next time, keep your cigar senses honed.